After 3 days in the sun and the dust south of the Nevada border, we covered the journey of the People's Convoy, a group that has the right to protest and the right to drive to D.C. peacefully. With that in mind, we wanted to take the time to answer a few important questions about it. Who are the members of the People's Convoy, and why is the convoy heading to Washington, D.C.? First and foremost, who is in the convoy? Before we meet the truckers, it's important to note that the members of the convoy we met on our journey were not violent toward us, rather peaceful.
Any bad people from either side of the aisle out of this mix the best that we can.
Organizers made constant mention to be vigilant of bad actors joining along the way, noting that as the convoy grew, they wouldn't be able to identify every single new addition to the convoy. In terms of size, we went to vantage points to gauge the size on hills outside of Adelanto, and even went as far to climb high mesas outside Kingman, making our best estimates of the fleet size with vehicles we could identify from rallies we attended. The convoy beginning on the first leg was over 300 vehicles, the size of that fleet, however, fluctuating as it continued onward. Somewhere between 30 to 40 semi-trucks made up the front of the convoy, the rest of the couple hundred being motorhomes and smaller vehicles. Some of the people in those other vehicles we spoke to were not truckers, and they were traveling for a myriad of reasons. Some relying on the goodwill of others to pay for gas and food as they followed on. But it was the truckers of the 30 to 40 semis we saw that we asked who they were and why they were on this journey.
The fight right now, everybody would try to say that it's just the mandates, a mask or vaccine or whatever the case might be. But that's not it. It's the decisions that they use for these mandates that we have an issue with.
Truckers are tired of all the mandates. The U.S. people are tired of all the mandates. Not to mention the price of fuel for these truck drivers. Look, I mean, come on, guys. California alone is over 5 something a gallon. Truckers can't afford that.
Mandates, this stuff's got to end. These kids and the masks and healthcare workers losing their jobs, and it's just, I'm just here to fight for everyone.
What do you think is going on? A bunch of angry people are getting together.
The convoy is heading to Washington, D.C. with a planned date of arrival on March 5th. Now, we've heard from the truckers, but now let's hear from the organizers on why D.C. and what they hope to accomplish when they get there.
We want accountability through bipartisan congressional hearings and investigations to the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, and then, of course, the federal government's response to that pandemic.
Brian BRASE, a trucker and volunteered co-organizer of the convoy, provided an answer when accompanied by the mission statement on the People's Convoy website to lift a declaration of emergency concerning COVID-19. That declaration, originally made during the Trump administration, signed March 13, 2020. And continued as of February 24th in 2021 by the Biden administration. This point reiterated by volunteer organizer, attorney, and prominent anti-vaccine activist LEIGH DUNDAS.
It's been 2 years almost. It's time to end the mandates, but more importantly, the abuse of the emergency powers that all of the executive branches have been engaged in that have allowed these mandates to crop up and stay for so long. So they're asking for a rollback of all of that and a restoration of freedom and liberty and unity and some accountability.
In order to find out more about the COVID-19 emergency declaration, we spoke with UNLV epidemiologist Brian Labus on that emergency declaration, with what it does and what emergency declarations like it do.
A lot of times it's really boring administrative sort of things that it covers. It just allows us to cut through that red tape where it may take a year previously to order whatever product it is. If we can't wait for syringes or ventilators or whatever, this can allow us to do some of those things much more quickly.
Another issue that was raised was anti-vaccine rhetoric, which was repeated during the rally, having specifically to do with vaccines and children.
Well, in general, vaccines are safe and effective at preventing COVID across all ages. As a medical product, though, as a vaccine, there's always the potential for some sort of side effects. And we do see slightly higher rates of those side effects in typically adolescent boys. There have been some concerns about blood clots and some things like that. The rates are still very low compared to how often those things actually occur from the disease itself. So that's really the comparison we make. What's the risk of the vaccine versus what's the risk of the COVID infection itself?
The enforcement of vaccine mandates like that of OSHA are also no longer in place after a Supreme Court decision back in January rejected a federal vaccine mandate for businesses. We'd also taken notice of the signs and flags that were pro-Trump and anti-Biden, that along with Republican candidates for office campaigning alongside the rally. Organizers say they're apolitical and said they can't control what every person is waving or believes. However, the political leaning of the crowd at the rally, outside Great American Pizza and Subs, and even on the road was apparent. DUNDAS responded to that criticism.
You know, is it more heavily displayed in one way or another? Maybe, but I'll tell you something. I don't consider the American flag to be a symbol of the right. I consider that to be a symbol of this country. And what I'm primarily seeing behind you, to the left of you, to the right of you, are flag, 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 flag. And that is the common ground we can all unite on. And you know, I think people just need to recognize maybe somebody's got a sticker or something I don't agree with. I got my own sticker that they don't agree with. Fine, where's the common ground? The common ground is we live in a great country. It's called the US of A. It has one flag, and I think we should all be able to get behind that, and that's what I'm seeing out here today.
Though the Capitol is bracing ahead of the State of the Union, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has been authorized to deploy National Guard troops in the city ahead of a trucker convoy. This has skeptics of the convoy drawing a parallel to the events of January 6th. Trucker and co-organizer Brian BRASE responded to that comparison.
This isn't J6. We're not J6 people. But to label everybody, I mean, what does it matter if somebody that was in this convoy was in the crowd of January 6th? Did they do something wrong? Were they wrong being in the crowd, standing up for their freedoms? I mean, seriously, I'm asking you now. Is that wrong? Do you believe that's wrong? That they were in the crowd? No, personally?
No, I asked for your response
to
the story.
I just think it's ridiculous that they're doing everything they can to try to spin this as some big far right movement, and it's not. We don't care what political party you follow. We're not affiliated with the right or the left. That's not what our message is. We're not going after any of the other stuff. We're not even anti-vaxxers. We just want freedom of choice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a college professor. I'm a truck driver that just believes in my personal freedoms. That's it. It's that simple.
In conclusion, what we've found is that for this nationwide demonstration, no single person or convoy represented the entire protest. From that sum that we've spoken to, many more were not able to talk on camera about each of the reasons for being a part of the convoy. We found that's because the reasoning differed from person to person, and even trucker to trucker. That'll do it for us. Our previous stories from the convoy are on the Las Vegas Review-Journal website. Follow us for more updates on what's happening in the city and region as they happen. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.